Right. Well, good morning, everyone. As Ian said, what I'm hoping to do in the next 25 minutes is to open your eyes to the new digital world that we live in. So, and really how we've had to change as an agency to take B2B brands to market. So we're going to look at the changing communications landscape, the rise of new digital consumers, the power of search, and also the role of your website in this new digital age. I thought that a good place to start is with my business card. And everyone in the agency is allowed to pick a quote that goes on the business card. This is from a guy called William Gibson, who's an American author. And he had a vision of the internet before it actually became a reality. And I think this quote really sums up where we are today in terms of the future is here, in terms of new technologies, digital channels, social media, Web 2.0. But it's not widely distributed yet. In terms of clients and organisations don't fully understand the power and the benefits that this can deliver. So let's look at the opportunity. We've got 51.5 million internet users in the UK. That's 82% of the population. So what this means for a lot of organisations is that the first touch point a prospect has with your brand is in a virtual space online. They discover you through an online channel, maybe search or pay-per-click, and then their secondary touch point is your website. So whether you like it or not, your brand is becoming more and more virtual day by day. To understand the opportunity, we've got to look at how the communications landscape has changed in the last 10 years. And it's been completely turned on its head. And what's changed is that interruptive marketing and advertising is less effective, and customers aren't responding to our brands and organisations just shouting our message out there. And we've seen a decline in traditional channels. TV has been in decline for the last 3 years. More people now are using the internet than watching TV. We've seen a decline in press, billboard, radio advertising. And these brands are struggling to actually reach the customer. The customers become harder to target and reach. This is a familiar sight in most UK cities. Free newspapers have been given away, but people don't take them anymore because they get their news through other channels, through their iPhone, through applications, through RSS feeds, Twitter feeds, Facebook feeds. Is this a sign of things to come? This is what's happened in São Paulo in Brazil. The mayor has banned outdoor advertising. He's called it visual pollution. So what we're also starting to see now is a backlash to some channels. And we see it in the phone. We've now got caller ID. We've got spam filters on email so people can decide to exclude you from the marketing list. And what we've seen is the decline in channels in the B2C space have also started to happen in the B2B space. And we've seen this as an agency firsthand really in the last 3 years. And it's changed the way that we take our brands to market. And if we look at some of these channels, the phone is a declining channel. And to give you an example of that, we used to have 20 people in a call centre within our business. And they used to manage response handling for our clients, people requesting a brochure, a data sheet, a product sample. Today we have one person in that team, and their role has changed. So I think that kind of shows how some of these channels are changing. Trade magazines are in the decline. A lot of them in certain sectors are going out of business. Trade shows are a lot smaller than they used to be. The role of the salesperson has changed. In this kind of digital world, the salesperson is the last person that starts to get contacted in that sort of buying process. And even email as a new digital channel is becoming less effective, and you've got to think differently about how you use it to get cut through. And all that's really happened is that our prospects and customers have migrated over to the digital versions of these. They're doing the same things, but just doing it in different ways. So instead of going to an event, people are connecting on social networks like LinkedIn and joining groups and having conversations around topics that are relevant to their industry or sector. Instead of reading an offline trade magazine, people are going to the online versions or the blogs, the trade journals. And trade shows these days stream all their content, live webinars, or a couple of weeks after the event, you get all the PowerPoint presentations. So you can experience the same thing, but in the comfort of your own office. And even email, instead of people subscribing to an email alert, people are taking your Facebook feed, your Twitter feed, or an RSS feed. And we even have account managers in our office that are having conversations on Twitter instead of email. And today's digital consumer are better connected through broadband, through wireless. They're more informed, and they're more fragmented, they're harder to reach, but they're also more in control And what's happened in the last 10 years is that the brand used to be able to control the message because they could control the channel because there weren't that many channels available. And to a certain degree, you knew when that customer was going to buy because there wasn't much choice in the market. And the internet has completely changed this. And what's happened is that brand equity is now in the hands of the consumer. And they decide when, how, what channel, and what platform they're going to use to engage with your brand if they choose to do that. And if you can't deliver it on their terms, they will go somewhere else. What we're also seeing now is the rise of a new type of consumer, what we call the digital native. And this is somebody that's under 30 years old. And they've grown up in what I call the PlayStation generation. And they're used to a new world of doing things. They're used to games consoles, mobile phones, netbooks, internet. And they're used to doing all those things at the same time. And the brain of the digital native is actually rewired because they've grown up in this digital world. And they process information differently and take in messages differently. And what we're seeing is that in the next 2 to 3 years, these people are going to be responsible for buying your products. They're now coming out of university, and they're coming into the workplace for the first time. What they're doing less of on the left-hand side, and what they're doing more of on the right-hand side. So we can see here that they live in the world of social networks, microblogs like Twitter, RSS feeds, and blogs. Still using email, but less of it. Don't like talking to people. When they use their mobile phone, they're not using it for talk. They're using it for texting, tweeting, watching videos. Don't like reading print offline, but they'll read it online. And they're not keen on face-to-face. And I think that brands have got a 2 to 3 year window to become what are called digital native ready, which is being in a position to communicate in the world that these people live in. And that's where it is at the moment. If you're an immigrant, by the way, you're over 30 years old. So that's where I am. I'm an immigrant, although I like to class myself at times as a digital native. I've grown up in this internet world, I guess. 3 years ago, we had the explosion of social media and Web 2.0. I'm sure you've all seen this slide before. And this has brought with it file sharing websites, video websites, microblogs, blogs, forums. And it's brought with it sites like YouTube, which is now the second biggest search engine on the internet. We've got Twitter, which is in the top 10 of websites globally. And we've got Facebook, which is number 1 in some countries in terms of how people access information. I think in the UK, Facebook's maybe number 2 or 3. And what we're seeing now is that this social space isn't just about kids telling their mates that they're in Starbucks drinking a Frappuccino. This is a real business marketing place now. And the average age of people that tap into this space is 35. And the social media space brings with it a number of threats. The first one is that users and prospects aren't giving their email address away anymore because they can take information in different ways. So what that means is the prospect is becoming harder to identify. And they're often not on your database, and you don't know where they are in the buying process. The other thing is when people are now researching products and services, they're going into this space here, and they're joining social networks, they're going to blogs, and they're asking questions. And they're using the feedback that they get from people to justify a purchasing decision. I believe, though, that the opportunities within this space outweigh the threats. And for all businesses of whatever size, you've got to understand how you can tap into this space, understand where the conversations are, and how you can join those. And I think some of these quotes here sort of reinforce the opportunity for businesses. 91% of business buyers read blogs, watch user-generated video, and participate in social media. 55% of decision makers are in social networks. And this is recent research. It's only about a month old. This is a prediction by Gartner, who are one of the industry voices, and they predict that by 2014, social networking services are going to replace email as a primary vehicle for communication. And with some organisations, this is starting to happen now. And I think that what we're going to see in the next 3 years is that sites like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn are going to become your new CRM and sales databases. And the problem with this space is that it's what we call earned media. You can't buy 2,000 Facebook friends. You can't buy 5,000 Twitter followers. You've got to earn this and invest time in it. And it does take time to build it up. And if your brands are already there and they've already got this platform, it's going to be a real challenge to play catch-up. And it's not like email today where you can go out tomorrow and buy 5,000 contacts or 10,000 contacts. This is the space that takes time to invest in. So what we've seen there, we've got a more fragmented communications landscape with social media, a decline in traditional B2B channels, and we've also seen we've got a new type of digital consumer and the digital native. Let's look at some of the other channels now within B2B. We all know about Google, we all use it every day, and it's become our new black book. It's where we go to source information. And when we do research on behalf of our clients, and we ask their clients where they go to start their research journey and their brand journey, 99% of the time they say that they go to Google. And the beauty about Google is it's the only channel that you can target people when they're ready to research or ready to buy. And again, this quote is it's about a year old now. I think it's now about 82% of B2B internet users turn to a search engine before any other information source. Where we're starting to see the real power of Google, though, is when we combine Google and social media together. Because what's happening is that Google is now indexing all that content that we saw on that social media slide. And it's changing the way that customers research your brands and your products. This is a customer journey that we put together for one of our clients, Opal. They're a telecoms solution provider, part of TalkTalk. And one of their products is business broadband. And we can see here the stages that somebody would go through to research their product. We know that they're starting at Google. And a couple of years ago, somebody would be able to go to Google, type in broadband, and Opal would probably come in the first 1 or 2 pages of those results. What's happening now is that social media content is flooding into this space. So when you do a Google search, you've got product review sites coming back, you've got advice sites, social media, blogs, shopping and comparison engines. And 80% of the time, the customer's already decided what product and service they want before they've even reached your website. And this is what we found with Opal. So what you've got to look at is how can you target and intercept people within these channels if that's where they're going to get channeled to start with. What's also changed in the last couple of months and why this has got even more powerful is that Google have rolled out what they call social search, and it gives the user an opportunity to filter the results that they get through Google. What I wanted to do is just kind of demonstrate what I mean by social search. Within our agency, we want to own the words contact strategy, and we created some content that we were going to share in the social media space. So we've got a diagram here, I don't know if you can see it, but it kind of shows how we deliver integrated marketing for our clients. And we've got a video on the right-hand side that explains how that works. And we tagged this with keywords, and we shared it within LinkedIn, within YouTube, within Flickr for images, and we also created some blog content around it. And what we saw very quickly was that this content was starting to get indexed in Google. And what we've got now is the first page of Google, which is giving us multimedia results. We can see there that one of our images has come back there. And on the left-hand side, you can see an option for the user to start filtering these Google results. So if you click on videos, we've now got videos. Luckily, our video is number 1. So you've got to start thinking about how you can control the different channels that Google gives the user to filter content. You can now filter by news, by blogs, by updates, which is Twitter, and by discussions. What you've also got to think about is not only owning the first page of Google for this different type of content, but also how you can own the first page within these separate channels. So if we go to Flickr and we do the same search, we've got our images here, and there's also other campaign images there. If we go to YouTube, again, we're number 1 in YouTube. And as I mentioned before, YouTube is the second biggest search engine, and 2 out of 3 videos on YouTube get shared in other social media channels. So the beauty of having your content in these channels is that people can take that content, they can repurpose it, and they can share it to their own content network and their own community. And to show you an example of that, this is what happened when we posted our content. People started to review it, and this is a blog that we had, and our video has been embedded there. This is another blog from another marketeer, and he's commented on our approach. He's used our image from Flickr, our video there from YouTube. What this is doing is it's getting our content kind of viral and advertised by other people. And the real power of it is when this happens. And I got an email a couple of weeks ago from a guy in Germany that said, I used your contact strategy model and it really helped with me putting together my marketing plan. And he sent me this image of his whiteboard, which kind of follows similar to our model. And he also did a blog post about this, linked it through to our website. So not only are we getting exposure, but we're also getting links and traffic to our website. It's improving our search engine optimization at the same time. I think that really kind of shows the power of what you can achieve in social media. So really what we're sort of moving to from a marketing strategy perspective is away from a push, where we just push our message out there and shout it to our audience, to what we call pull marketing, which is inbound marketing techniques. And inbound marketing is about targeting people when they're ready to research or ready to purchase in this new digital world. The beauty about pull is that when people are coming to your organisation through channels like search, they're actually ready to research and they're ready to buy. The problem with push is that probably only 2 or 3% of your target audience that you might do a DM to or an email are actually ready to buy. If we look at how we sort of break these channels out and how we split them up, this is what I would traditionally call push channels. We've got email in there, which is probably the only digital channel. And then on the pull side, we've got a mix of search optimization, pay-per-click, content like blogs, white papers, RSS feeds, videos, webinars, online banners. What I'm not saying is don't stop doing all this activity. You know, push and pull can work together, and sometimes that's where you get the real power of offline and online. But you've got to start to identify which of these channels are becoming less effective and which ones are driving less traffic, less inquiries and less sales for your business. And can some of that budget be spent in some of those pull channels? And what we've seen in the last couple of years is that our clients have started to migrate over to that strategy, and they're spending 80% of their budgets in pull marketing, because that's where they're now getting the results. And if we look at some of these clients, these are some that we're working with at the moment. Working with divisions within Chorus, ABB and Trelleborg. And these are technical businesses with technical products targeting technical markets with very technical information. And these are using new digital channels. Trelleborg, ABB are spending 70-80% of their budgets in digital. Chorus, last year, we did our first integrated social media campaign for them to take a new product to market. And as part of that, we were having conversations with prospects in LinkedIn that were then being linked through to a microsite. We built up followers within Twitter that, again, we were linking through to different channels. And in some cases, we were getting more click-through rates from our social media than traditional channels. SFS Syntec, then in the construction industry, and last year they became our first 100% digital client. So I think this shows that this is happening now. This isn't the future. This is what organisations are starting to adopt. And on the far end, we've got Opal, which is part of TalkTalk, and they're spending close to £1 million in digital marketing, because that's, again, where they're getting the best return for their money. So as we move towards this pull strategy, you've got to think differently about how you engage with your audience. Because what we're asking people to do is to come and spend time with our brand and to actually come and experience our website. So you've got to deliver something of value, some engagement, and actually give people a reason to come through to your website. And I heard a great quote a couple of weeks ago that playtime is the new airtime. And what big brands are doing now is they're thinking, well, if I do a big TV campaign, I might get to my target audience with a message for maybe a couple of minutes that week. If I create an online portal and drive traffic to it, they might come back and spend an hour a week on that. So brands are thinking about differently of how they deliver engagement. Just to show you what I mean by engagement, I've got a few examples here which are both B2C and B2B, which I think sort of demonstrate engagement. If we take a look at Nike, every campaign they do now has got a campaign microsite at the heart of it. We've seen Nike Plus, which is a running website, and this is a community where you can join other joggers, you can form a running network, and if you go out for a run, you can record where you've run on your iPod, you can connect that to Nike Plus and then share that information within social channels. And Nike are great examples of how to deliver online customization and online engagement that people actually want to spend time with. I don't know if any of you have heard of this, Hotel 626. This is probably one of the most famous campaigns that's been launched in the last couple of years. And it's one of the most immersive experiences that I've ever seen in digital. And it was to launch a new brand of crisps for Doritos targeting teenagers. And what they created was an online website that's only online between 6 o'clock at night and 6 in the morning. And when you register to join this website, you're actually taking part in an online video game, and you give it access to your webcam, you put your mobile phone number in there, and also your social networks like Facebook and Twitter. And it uses that information as part of the gaming experience. So at one point in the game, you actually see your picture in the game. It's took a picture of you using your webcam. At another point in the game, you get a phone call on your mobile from one of the characters saying that you're never going to escape Hotel 626. And as you go through the game, it's communicating where you are in different stages within your social networks. So it's spreading the game virally within your own network. So I recommend everybody has a look at this website and thinks about how you could use similar techniques within your marketing, use of mobile and use of social network. If we look at how brands are using specific channels now, Best Buy are using Twitter for their online customer support. And they've created something called Twelp Force, and these are dedicated customer support representatives that answer questions through Twitter. In the first year of this going live, they've answered over 25,000 questions. So it's, you know, how you can use some of these channels for different parts of your business as well. You know, Twitter just isn't for marketing. It can be used for HR, it can be used for customer support, it can be used for R&D. This is a campaign that we launched a couple of years ago when a lot of these technologies were in their infancy. This was to launch a new product for Rockwool insulation. And we were targeting architects and contractors. And what we created was personalised webinars. And we sent people an email which were personalised to them. And when they clicked on the link in that email and they came through to the website, they got a personal introduction by name, by job function, and by industry, by this guy, Hugh Evans. And then they got a personalised webinar as well. And what we were showing there was that real customer intimacy. We knew that customer better than their competition. And we were hopefully creating an experience that people would come back to or they would share with their colleagues. To integrate offline and online channels, we also sent people glasses in the post, what we call red reveal glasses, and there were hidden messages within the website, and if they found those messages with the glasses, they could enter a competition. So again, thinking about how we get people offline to online. So hopefully with all this traffic being generated from new channels and social media, the role of your website is now changing within B2B, and we call it the virtual salesperson. And your B2B website has still got to deliver relevant, segmented information at different stages of the buying process. But there's also new tools and trends that you can consider. The first one is a move to what we call the real-time web. Your websites traditionally maybe only get updated maybe a couple of times a week, a couple of times a month. For some clients, maybe a couple of times a year. With the impact of social media, people now want live, real-time information. So you've got to look at how you can connect your website to social media channels, both in terms of directing people to social media, but also pulling your feeds into your website. You know, pull your Twitter feed in, pull your Facebook feed in, so that when people come to your website, they get the very latest experience of your brand. Websites have gone from being one-way to two-way. People now want a conversation with you. They want to use blogs, they want to use forums, live chats. They want to have a chat with you and build a dialogue. So you've got to think about your website becoming two-way and having the tools in that to deliver that. There's also a move away from what we call premium content to freemium content. And in the last 10 years, we've been obsessed with websites by putting all our content behind secure areas and password-restricted locations. The benefit now is to actually share that content, give away some of your IP, so that people will share that with their own colleagues and share it within the social media space. And I think the example I showed you before of our contact strategy diagram and our video is a good example of how that can work for you. I'm not saying give everything away for free. You've still got to keep some of your premium content, like your latest white papers and podcasts, but think differently about how you share your content. There's also a move towards rich media content. People don't want to watch a static web page. They want to engage with it. They want to watch a streaming video. They want to watch a webinar. They want to take away a podcast to watch offline. And 50% of the traffic that goes through Cisco's network globally is video-based content. So that kind of shows the shift towards what executives want to see online now. There's also a move towards the social gateway. And then in the next couple of years, as more content starts to live in these social media channels, your website will become a portal to those channels. So if people want images, they'll go to Flickr. If they want slide kits, they'll go to SlideShare. If they want to join a group and engage with you, they'll go to LinkedIn. And your website will become a channel to those networks. Your website is still going to be integrated though, integrated with sales, marketing, HR, R&D, all your different business divisions to get the best impact. And everything on here revolves around content. You can't do this without content. We've always said that content is king, but now it's even more king. And you've got to think differently about how your marketing team works. You're now content producers, you're content distributors, you're also monitoring content. And you've got to think about how you work with your agency to deliver value-added content that gives engagement and that people are going to want to share and take away from your website or actually come to your website for. So I'm going to leave you on this quote. That's the end of my presentation. But I think this kind of really shows the power of these new channels and the impact if you get it wrong. 68% of web users will have left your website if you don't deliver relevancy in 2 clicks, and 40% of those will never return.